What is up, everybody? Francis here, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 DM things that I wish that D&D players know, because most of the time, especially if you're a player that you're trying to become a DM, you don't really know what's happening on the other side of the screen, and speaking from experience, it's usually pure and utter chaos. And the first thing is, sometimes it's more than a game. D&D is a time commitment, especially if you're the DM. As a player, you only have to manage one thing, and that's just showing up and playing your character. DMs, they make everything. They make the world, they make the NPCs, they make the encounters and the setting and the maps and all of that jazz. Players have the expectation, sometimes the intuitive expectation that it is just a game. If players run off the rails, or they cause mayhem, or they just goof off for a session or two, it's perfectly fine, because D&D is just a game. And honestly, that is true to an extent. However, the time commitment in comparison, the DM spends a lot more time, and sometimes they have a tendency to treat it very seriously. I'm a victim of that as well, and it's something I'm trying to work on, and you're not even being paid for that. Secondly, is it's more fun when you don't know, and I'm talking to you players, because if you're like mine, you have a tendency to, I don't know, look at every monster in the monster manual. There is a very genuine hope for some DMs, is that they want to put an encounter in front of you, and you are in genuine awe how crazy, how amazing, or how surprising this thing is, versus whatever the internet says. I genuinely think it's more fun for the players when they don't read everything that the DM is throwing at them. I don't memorize the rules, I just enforce them. And there are times when players will argue with the DM saying, hey, the player's handbook says it like this is what I think the spell does because of the way that it's worded. And to that extent, I agree. It should be discussed or argued a lot. However, there are times when the DM, myself included, I will argue against the rule book. Yes, you're right, but not my game. Hashtag not my game. Asking questions. And with asking questions, I'm not just talking about inside of the game, I'm talking about outside of the game. It's like asking someone about their hobbies and asking them about their game, how their campaign is going, sparking conversation of, is this character related to that character? I don't know if your DM would actually tell you that, but I do wish players ask more questions about anything when it comes to their campaign. The fifth thing is, DMs don't keep track of the party's inventory. I don't know why this is a controversial thing. In my opinion, it's not up to the DM to determine what the players have. It's really up to the players to keep track of their own things. DMs have a lot to worry about already, so why bother giving them more things to worry about when you yourself as a player have access to these things? And it's just a matter of communication within the party, and I think that would probably work out as a party only thing. I don't know, just my 2 cents. The sixth thing, which you might be against me here, is I don't purposely try to TPK the party. When you TPK a party, you have to attend a funeral, as you should say. DMs, especially newer DMs, they don't want to TPK the party unless they're like that sadistic, which by all means, warn them beforehand. I don't purposely try to TPK them unless they frantically deserve it. It's like what they say, it's not me killing the players, it's the players putting themselves in hopeless situations, and they kill themselves by transitive property. Next is, everything is negotiable, but nothing is free. And this is especially for games where you start at higher levels. Like, there are times when players have come to me and they say, hey, I want to make a spell, or hey, can I have this magic item? I am open to negotiation about that. However, I don't think it should be free unless the DM agrees. So if that's the case, but all power to you. There are times when players will make things or ask for certain items without like running them towards the DM and not even like letting him know about it. And that is honestly a really bad idea, because sometimes those certain items don't exist in the DM's campaign. And yes, it is negotiation, and it's not free. You need that permission to do what you want to do, players. Looking at you. Next is my outlines are not scripts. And what I mean by this is I try to have a loose outline for every adventure that I run, but I don't script everything. Like, I used to do that. I tried to do that as a starting DM. It was awful. It went straight to the ground. I was so depressed. Do not script your D&D games. But things sometimes work out naturally, which the DM is control of the flow of the game. My outlines are not railroaded campaigns. These are just loose things that could possibly happen. If they don't happen, okay, I'll save it for something later down the line. Second to lastly, I should say, is I am not my NPCs. There are so many times where my players are confused. It's not anybody's fault. It's just a way of understanding the game. When the DM tells you something, it's a fact. When the NPC that the DM controls, probably take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Like I said, I am not my NPCs. I'm not my villains. I'm not trying to kill the party. I am just trying to facilitate what they would do. And lastly, I think some DMs can relate to this, is that the DMs are players too. The DM wants to have fun. They're not trying to win by killing the players. They are trying to win by running a good game. There's a lot of times where I don't feel like running a game and I'm not having fun because my players are slaughtering my favorite villains that I've made. And yes, they're villains, they're meant to be fought and defeated. However, there are times when the DM wants to have a compelling game, and when they're not having fun, they pretty much set the tone for the rest of the entire series. So they should be having fun as well. If they're not having fun, I suggest someone else try to DM a game and see how they feel about it. But anyways, that's it for this video. 10 things I wish players knew about. If you enjoyed this, let me know by hitting that like button down below, and consider subscribing because I post new videos every single week on this channel. I'm back from a quick little break, had a little graduation thing, but I'm back. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.